I connected to my wife's work Zoom while she was in another room and heard. He's too stupid to notice I used his bonus to pay for my trip with James. I stayed silent, pretend nothing happened. 5 days later, she walked into a surprise she couldn't laugh off. I always thought betrayal would come in like a storm, loud, dramatic, doors slamming, things broken. But when it came for me, it slipped in quietly through a set of headphones and a muted mic. It started on a Tuesday. Nothing special about that day. I was working from home, same as I've been doing since the company I worked for in Des Plaines downsized our office last year. I had just wrapped up a morning meeting, poured a fresh cup of coffee, and was walking past the guest bedroom, which had become my wife's makeshift office since the pandemic. She wasn't in the room. I assumed she was in the bathroom or maybe making herself a smoothie. Her laptop was still open, the blue Zoom icon bouncing softly on her screen. I heard voices. Figured she had a meeting going, but something told me to listen. I shouldn't have, but I did. I clicked her mouse. The screen popped to life. Her camera was off, mic muted, but she was still connected. And her coworkers? They were talking like they forgot she was even there. "So is it still on for Cabo?" Someone asked in a female voice, kind of nasally. "Yup," another woman answered, and then laughed. She said he doesn't even realize she used his bonus to cover the resort deposit. Told me, "He's too stupid to notice I used his bonus to pay for my trip with James." Can you believe that? The room suddenly felt 10 degrees colder. James, my wife's coworker. I stood there, watching the screen, the cursor blinking like a pulse, while my own heart slowed to a crawl. I didn't say a word, didn't close the screen, just backed out of the room, shut the door behind me, and walked to the garage like I was in a daze. That night, I made tacos. She came home from her yoga class, kissed me on the cheek, and said, smells amazing." And I smiled. Said, "Glad you're home." Because if I had said what I wanted to say, I don't think I would have stopped talking. Or shouting. Her name's Kelsey. We met in Madison back in 2008. I was working for a HVAC distributor in Sun Prairie, and she was studying business at UW. We met at a friend's barbecue. She was loud, energetic, and a little wild. I was the guy on the edge of the crowd, nursing a beer and wondering if anyone noticed I didn't really belong there. She noticed me. Fast forward 13 years, 2 apartments, a wedding in Door County, and a house in Palatine. Later we'd become comfortable. Or so I thought. Kelsey worked for a logistics firm based out of Chicago. She worked hard, made good money. I always admired her for that. She climbed the ladder fast and became senior coordinator 2 years ago. Spent more time on the road, more time in client strategy meetings, and less time talking to me about anything that wasn't bills or groceries. But still, I believed we were solid. Sure, we didn't talk like we used to. Didn't go out much. Sex had become routine. But life gets busy, right? I figured this was just the midlife phase they don't warn you about. That quiet plateau before retirement and travel plans. I figured we were fine. Until I heard what I heard. I didn't confront her that night. Or the night after. Instead, I started watching. Listening. Not like some spy or movie detective. I didn't bug her phone or check her texts. I just paid attention. To what she didn't say. To the way she always smiled when James texted her. To how she always brought him up casually. Like he was just hilarious or such a lifesaver during that last business trip. One night, she left her email open on our iPad. There it was, confirmation. Hotel confirmations. Flight bookings. Dinners. All for 2. Some even labeled it as a romantic package. Every one of them was either paid using our joint card or with the bonus I got from helping overhaul our customer service platform at work. It had been a nice surprise, that extra $5,000. I'd planned to use it to replace our aging washer and dryer. She convinced me to just let it sit for now. It wasn't sitting. It was sweating in the Mexican sun. 5 days after I heard the Zoom call, she walked into something she couldn't laugh off. I came home early that day. Took half a day from work. Told my boss I had a plumbing issue. Wasn't a total lie. I was unclogging something. Just not the drain. I set the scene carefully. Candles. Her favorite Italian from the place downtown. I wore the dress shirt she liked, the one that made her say, "I clean up better than I look." She came in around 6:30. Kicked her shoes off. Set her purse on the hall table. Stopped when she saw me. "What's all this?" "Celebrating," I said. Her eyes lit up, confused. "Celebrating what?" "I thought we could toast to your promotion. Or James. Or Cabo. You choose." She blinked. "What?" I pulled her laptop out from under the coffee table. Pressed play on the clip I had saved to the desktop. Her face drained. Lips parted, like she wanted to argue. But there was nothing to argue with. Her voice and her laugh was right there, clear as glass. She sat down slowly, like her knees gave out. "You went through my stuff?" she asked, voice brittle. I laughed cold. "Nope. Just heard it through your mic. You left your Zoom on." She looked away. Said nothing. I let the silence stretch. When she finally looked back, there was something hollow behind her eyes. "You weren't supposed to hear that. That's what you're leading with." She swallowed. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean to use my bonus for your affair. I didn't think you'd notice, and I probably wouldn't have." That's the worst part. She put her head in her hands. I'm sorry. I'm not, I said. Not anymore. I didn't kick her out that night. I let her sleep in the guest room. Next morning, she was gone before I got up. Later that day, I canceled our joint cards, frozen the savings account, changed all my passwords. Then I called an attorney. Kelsey tried to talk me out of it and told me it was a phase, a stupid, selfish phase. That James meant nothing. That she was scared of how monotonous our life had become. I needed to feel something again, she said. You could have told me that, I replied, before you felt it with him. The divorce moved fast. Turns out when you have screenshots, emails, call logs, and her own voice admitting to the affair, things go a little smoother. She tried to fight for the house and said it was her dream. I reminded her it was my bonus that paid for the down payment and her vacation that destroyed it. I kept the house. She moved into a condo in Schaumburg. James didn't last. She told me later that he bailed after she started talking about real life. Guess he liked vacations, not consequences. It's been 14 months since that night. I replaced the washer and dryer, painted the guest room, got rid of the mattress she used to cry into. I started hiking. Took a trip to Zion National Park alone. I didn't know how much I needed silence until I was halfway up Angel's Landing with the wind in my ears and no one waiting for me at the bottom. Sometimes, I still think about her. Not with hate. Not with sadness either. More like someone remembering a dream that ended strangely. They say betrayal feels like fire. But to me, it felt like water cold, slow, sinking. And now? Now I know how to swim. It was a Tuesday, one of those quiet, gray ones where nothing feels urgent, but you're still tired anyway. I'd been working from home that morning, bouncing between invoices and Zoom meetings for the equipment distributor I've been with for almost 11 years. The company's based in Des Plaines, but I live just outside Arlington Heights, in a modest two-story colonial that my wife Kelsey and I bought 7 years ago. It's got that old Midwestern charm, creaky floorboards, drafty windows in winter, and a backyard that takes half a day to mow. Kelsey was working from home, too. She'd been in the guest bedroom all morning at her office, as she called it now. She works for a logistics firm that's based downtown. She moved up pretty fast over the last couple of years and started traveling more, attending these weekend strategy retreats, team building getaways, all that crap. I supported her, always did. She made decent money, and she carried herself like she was going places. I didn't mind. We'd always split things pretty evenly, and I figured that's what marriage is. Sometimes one of you runs while the other one walks, but you're supposed to be going in the same direction. That Tuesday, I was walking past the guest room around 11:30, about to refill my coffee, when I noticed her door open a crack. Her laptop was still on the desk. The screen was lit up with the familiar blue border of a Zoom call. She wasn't in the room. I figured she must have stepped away, probably in the kitchen or taking a bathroom break. Her mic was muted, her camera off, but she was still logged in. Then I heard a female voice, talking casually. So, is the trip still happening, or what? There was laughter, followed by another voice. Oh, totally. She said he hasn't got a clue. Said she used his bonus to pay for the resort deposit. Wait, seriously? I swear. I asked her how she swung it, and she goes, he's too stupid to notice I used his bonus to pay for my trip with James. Like, no shame at all. More laughter. I froze. Literally just stopped moving. James. I'd heard his name before. He was her team lead, or something like that. She mentioned him a few times over the past 6 months. I always thought he was just another work buddy. She even showed me a picture once. He looked like the kind of guy who wore loafers without socks and called everyone boss. I stepped back from the door quietly, heart thudding. I didn't say anything. Didn't burst in. Didn't yank the laptop shut or scream or confront anyone. I just stood there, listening to them laugh. And when the call ended and Kelsey walked back in with a smoothie in her hand, humming like nothing was wrong, I was in the living room, pretending to be neck-deep in spreadsheets. Hey, babe, she said cheerfully. Do you want anything? No. I'm good. I replied without looking up. My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't twitch. I don't know how, but something in me shifted in that moment. Quietly. Permanently. That night, she made lasagna. Poured us each a glass of red wine. She told me James was going to be promoted soon and how she thought she might get moved to another division. She said she was excited about growing. I nodded. Listened. Asked the right questions. Smiled. She didn't notice anything different. Later, while she was watching Netflix in bed, I sat in the garage and stared at the water heater for a long time. I wasn't even thinking about cheating at that point. Not exactly. I was thinking about how blind I'd been. I'd just gotten a bonus 2 months ago. $5,000. It came out of nowhere, too. I'd helped roll out an inventory system upgrade for one of our distributors in Milwaukee and got noticed by a corporate. I remember showing her the deposit. Nice, she'd said, grinning. Maybe we can take a trip. Apparently, she meant she would take one with James. For the next few days, I kept everything quiet. Watched. Listened. Paid attention to the things I hadn't before. Like how she never left her phone unattended anymore. or how she always made sure to flip it over on the table when we had dinner. The messages from James were still popping up on her Apple Watch, though. She wasn't careful enough to change her notification previews. Most of them were harmless on the surface. You're a lifesaver. Still thinking about that night. Can't wait to get out of town with you. One even said, he's got no idea, does he? And her reply, not even a clue, smirking faced. I took a photo of that one when she was in the shower. My hands weren't even shaking anymore. The 5th day after that Zoom call, I got up early and took half a day off work. I told my boss I had to handle something personal. He didn't ask questions. He's been through a divorce before. He probably recognized the tone in my voice. I spent the morning preparing. I set up the dining room just like she liked it. Dim lights, her favorite candles, Italian takeout from the little place we used to go to on date nights. I even poured her a glass of that cheap red blend she always bought at Trader Joe's. She walked in around 6, kicked her shoes off like she always did, dumped her purse by the stairs. Wow, she said, smiling as she walked in. What's all this? Just felt like celebrating, I said calmly. Celebrating what? I gestured to the table. Cabo. James. You being so damn good at hiding things. Her smile faltered. What? I stepped aside and hit play on the audio recording I had synced to the Bluetooth speaker. Her co-workers' voices filled the room. He's too stupid to notice I used his bonus to pay for my trip with James. She just stood there, frozen. I let it play for a few more seconds, then paused it. You know, I said, pouring myself a glass of water. I thought I was just boring. I thought maybe the spark had gone out because of me. But now I see it was never about that. Kelsey sat down, slowly, like her legs couldn't hold her up. I can explain. I bet you can. I didn't think you'd find out. That's the part that hurts, Kels. Not the cheating. Not even the lying. It's how little you think of me. Like I'm some background character in your life story. She rubbed her forehead. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Then why the hotel reservations? The flights? The beachside couples massage? Silence. She slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, I froze the joint credit cards. Took my name off anything she could access easily. Opened a new account. Called a divorce attorney that a buddy had recommended after his own split last year. Kelsey tried to talk. Cried. Apologized. Said she was scared of how quiet our life had become. Said she didn't plan for it to happen with James. It just did. I didn't feel seen anymore, she said, through tears. I didn't say anything. Because I had nothing left to give her. Not even anger. Just empty space where trust used to live. She didn't go to work the next day. I heard her moving around upstairs, real slow, like she wasn't sure what to do with herself. At one point, I saw her standing in the backyard through the kitchen window. She was barefoot in the grass, hugging her arms to her chest like she was cold, even though it was 68 and sunny. She looked small out there. Not that she ever took up much space to begin with, but that morning, she looked like someone who'd finally realized the ground under her wasn't solid anymore. She came back in around noon and sat down at the kitchen table while I was fixing a drawer that had been sticking for weeks. I didn't stop what I was doing. I canceled the trip, she said quietly. I kept sanding the inside of the drawer rail. James doesn't even know yet, she added. Still standing. The scrape of wood on wood filled the silence between us. I know it doesn't matter, she said. But I just wanted you to know I didn't go through with it. I finally looked up at her. You went through with enough. She nodded. Didn't argue. That was almost worse. That weekend, she left to stay at her sister's place in Naperville. Said it would give us space. I didn't argue. I watched her carry 2 bags out to the car bags I had bought her 2 Christmases ago. She didn't look back when she closed the door. I stood in the hallway after she was gone, just listening. There was a strange kind of stillness to the house. Not peace. Just a quiet you notice when someone's absence is too loud. I walked into the guest room, the one she used as her office. The curtains were still drawn. Her coffee mug sat next to a half-used notepad. I opened her desk drawer out of habit and saw a stack of sticky notes with reminders written in sharp, slanted handwriting. One of them just said, "Don't forget, James likes white wine." I stared at that note for a long time. Then I crumpled it. The lawyer's name was Becca Langston. Sharp as a tack, no nonsense. She had short hair, wore a gray suit with a maroon blouse, and had a voice like she'd been through this 100 times and already knew what cards were going to be played. We met in her office in Skokie the following Monday. "Do you have proof of infidelity?" she asked, flipping open her notepad. "Yes. Text messages, emails, hotel bookings, receipts. All of the above. And she used your bonus to pay for part of the affair?" "Yes." Becca tapped her pen against her chin. "Okay, that changes some things. Were the funds from your personal account or a joint one?" "Joint." She nodded. "Still helps. Illinois is an equitable distribution state. A judge isn't going to like that she used shared marital resources for an extramarital affair. And if you want to push for spousal misconduct, we've got a good base." "I'm not trying to destroy her," I said. "No," she said gently. "But you were trying to protect yourself. And you should." I leaned back. "I just want out. Fair and clean. That's what we'll aim for," she said. but fair and clean doesn't mean painless. Over the next few weeks, everything started to feel clinical. Dry paperwork, timelines, statements of assets, lists of belongings. She sent an email requesting a few specific things from the house: her jewelry box, her mother's quilt, a stack of vinyl records she kept in the upstairs closet. She didn't ask for the espresso machine I bought her, or the photo albums from our trips. I boxed it all up anyway and left it in the garage. She came by to pick it up on a Thursday evening. I stayed in the backyard while she was inside. I didn't want a scene. She didn't come find me. But when I walked back into the house after hearing her car pull away, I noticed she'd taken the glass hummingbird figurine that sat on the kitchen windowsill. She always said it reminded her of her grandmother. I hadn't thought she'd remember it. That got to me more than I wanted it to. I heard through mutual friends that James had been let go a few weeks after the Zoom leak. Apparently someone, probably someone on that same call, reported the relationship to HR. Word spread fast. There were rules, apparently, about manager-subordinate dynamics. And once things got personal and the trip receipts were brought up, it was over. Kelsey didn't talk about it. Didn't try to explain. I think she knew better. One night, she sent me a message. I didn't just cheat because I was bored. I cheated because I was tired of feeling invisible. That doesn't excuse it, but it's the truth. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. People talk about betrayal like it's this huge, explosive moment. But really, it seeps in slowly. It's not just what they did, it's how much you let slide before they did it. All the little ways you silence your own discomfort because you trust them, because you believe in them more than they believe in you. That was the hardest part. Not what she did, but how long I didn't see it. About a month into the divorce proceedings, I started sleeping in the guest room. Not because I had to, she was still gone, but because I didn't like sleeping on our side of the bed anymore. It felt fake, like lying to myself. I cleaned the garage from top to bottom, reorganized every shelf, donated 3 boxes of junk to the Salvation Army. I found my old sketch pad in one of the bins, something I hadn't touched in years. Used to draw all the time when I was younger. I picked it up again, slowly. At first just shapes and lines, then landscapes, then a drawing of the backyard. I didn't realize how much I missed using my hands for something that didn't involve a spreadsheet or a wrench. One Sunday, I bumped into her dad at the Jewel-Osco on Northwest Highway. Hadn't seen him since Christmas. He looked surprised to see me. Tried to smile. "How are you holding up, Rob?" "Getting by," I said, grabbing a bag of apples. She told me a little of what happened. I didn't want to believe it. I nodded. Neither did I. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "She's not herself lately. I don't know what's going on in her head. She always had this need to outrun something." "Yeah," I said, even when nothing was chasing her. He looked like he wanted to say more, but he just patted my shoulder and said, "Take care of yourself." "You too." I didn't cry. Not once. I thought I would, especially when I packed up the little things. But I didn't. What I did feel was empty, like someone had unplugged the noise that had been humming behind the scenes of my life for years. And maybe that was what I needed all along. The paperwork kept coming. Every week, there was something new to review. Disclosures, property lists, proposed splits. Becca would call or email, walking me through it. She kept her tone steady, like she knew I was walking through mud, and she didn't want to rush me. Sometimes she'd pause in the middle of explaining something and just ask, "You good?" It was the first time I realized how much those 2 words could carry when said by someone who meant them. "Yeah," I'd reply. "I'm good," even if I wasn't. I think that's what people forget about divorce. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's slow, like water damage. The foundation of who you thought you were with starts to rot, quietly, and by the time you see the cracks, it's already sunk in too deep. One night, maybe 5 weeks in, I was making dinner with nothing fancy, just grilled cheese and tomato soup, and I noticed the calendar still had our old trip marked on it. Cabo, April 7th to 11th. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I reached up and tore the page off. Didn't crumple it. Just folded it neatly and shoved it in the drawer with the takeout menus. I never planned to look at it again, but I couldn't throw it out either. Kelsey called me 2 days after that. It was a little after 10 p.m., and I'd just gotten into bed in the guest room. I almost didn't pick up. "Hey," she said. Her voice was quiet, measured. I didn't say anything at first. Just waited. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. "Again." "You said that already." "I know. I'm saying it again because I don't know what else to do." There was a long pause. "I'm not calling to beg or try to fix anything. I know we're past that. But I saw a picture of us the other day. From Michigan. Remember that cabin we stayed at?" I closed my eyes. Yeah, I remembered. Fall trip, 2018. The one where we hiked the dunes, and she took a million pictures of the trees. She said she'd never seen so much orange in one place. "I just wanted you to know, it wasn't always fake. At least, not for me." I sighed. "I never said it was. I did love you. I didn't say I love you too. I didn't say anything." She filled the silence for me. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't want to disappear without saying that." "You didn't disappear," I said. "You exploded. Big difference." Another long pause. I'm sorry, she whispered. I hope you'll be okay. I will be, I said, and hung up. A few days later, I got a call from HR at my company. Nothing serious. They wanted feedback on the inventory tool I helped design. After the call, my manager, Ed, asked if I was coming to the summer planning retreat in Lake Geneva. Depends, I said. Is it just golf and bad PowerPoints again? He laughed. Mostly. But there's also free food and an open bar. I told him I'd think about it. Then I actually did. Lake Geneva wasn't far. Maybe a 2-hour drive with traffic. I haven't gone anywhere since, everything. Maybe it'd be good to get out. I went. Stayed in a little inn off the main road, nothing fancy. On the first day, I skipped the presentations and took a long walk along the lake instead. Boats drifting by, kids laughing in the distance, the smell of sunscreen and water and grilled food in the air. It was the first time in months I didn't feel like I had something hanging over me. Back at the inn, I found myself sketching again. Just little things. A couple walking by holding hands. A dog with a stick twice its size. A rowboat tied to a crooked dock. There was a woman sitting on the bench near me. She had short brown hair, big sunglasses, and a book in her lap. I didn't think she noticed I was drawing her until she looked up and said, "That better not be me looking that grumpy." I smiled. "You're not grumpy. You just looked thoughtful." She chuckled. "I'll take that." We chatted for a bit. Her name was Nadine. She was visiting from Madison and said she needed a break from too many voices and not enough peace. I told her I understood. She asked if I wanted to grab coffee the next morning. I didn't say yes right away, but I didn't say no either. I didn't go looking for anything on that trip, and I wasn't planning on telling Kelsey about Nadine. It wasn't about revenge or moving on. I just needed to feel human again, like someone who had a reason to be looked at, talked to, not just the guy who got cheated on and left behind with too many bills and half-empty drawers. Coffee with Nadine turned into a walk, then lunch, then another hour just sitting on the pier talking about stupid things, music, worse jobs, what we thought we'd be doing at 40. She asked me what happened. I didn't give her every detail, just said, my marriage ended, but not all at once. She nodded. I know that kind of ending. Back home, things were quiet again. The house still felt half empty, but it was cleaner, warmer somehow. I had started lighting candles at night not because I needed the scent, but because it made the room feel less hollow. I even moved back into the master bedroom, changed the sheets, bought new pillows, rearranged the furniture, took down the canvas print of the skyline Kelsey picked out and replaced it with one of my own sketches of an old oak tree in fall. I started cooking for myself again. Real meals. Nothing fancy, but I'd forgotten how much I liked the rhythm of it, chopping, stirring, tasting, adjusting. I stopped using paper plates. It felt like claiming space again, like peeling off a layer of dust. I hadn't heard from Kelsey in weeks when her name showed up in my inbox. The subject line just said, "If you want it." The message was short, just one sentence. "The rest of my things are in the basement. If you want me to come get them, say so. Otherwise, I'll assume you tossed them." I stared at it for a minute, then typed out a reply. "They're boxed. In the garage. Pick them up whenever." She never wrote back. 3 days later, the boxes were gone.